Good afternoon. Today we have a guest who has been working and living in the USA for almost 20 years. Particularly, he has devoted himself to the energy sphere, namely to the green energy. He's been dealing with solar panels, green efficiency, and so on. And after so many years, he has decided to come back and apply his knowledge in his homeland. My guest today is Mr. Timur Ahmedov.
Hello.
Welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
Timur, you are an expert in energy efficiency, renewable energy and sustainability. Am I right?
That is correct.
Would you please tell about your life in the US first, and we'll continue about your projects here.
So for last 15 years, I've been working in the field of energy efficiency, renewable energy and sustainability. I was always interested in this subject since I was a little kid, but in the United States, it was possible to make that into a profession. It's a new field, it's a very challenging field, but it grew substantially. So what I really like about it is life, it's not just work, because it takes everything from your life. So it's how you do things, how you eat, how you drive, not even for work, but just for yourself. So the decisions, what I do at work, impact my personal life as well. And that's how it becomes a passion. It becomes just part of my life as opposed to going to work and coming back from work, for example. And it's a very innovative field, so that puts me in front of exciting people that come up with new technologies, sometimes strange technologies, but that's interesting. So you always deal with interesting people. So that keeps things rolling, that keeps things exciting. That's how you feel young, because there is always energy.
Yes.
So that's the energy. That's something that I was hoping to bring to Uzbekistan and try it here.
So Timur, you've been here for about 2 years, almost 2 years.
No, about 9 months.
About 9 months, okay. So what triggered you to come here, and why did you decide to come during this period?
So I was watching changes happening in Uzbekistan, and I saw a lot of development. I saw new construction happening. So this would be the right time to come in and offer my expertise, offer my knowledge, so that these buildings will be built right, will be built healthy, for long-term sustainable. So it's kind of looking at the changes, but also you know, the right time to make changes to the building is when the building is being built.
Okay.
Because then it's going to be there for 50, 60, 80 years.
I see. We'll talk about it later.
Mm-hmm.
So your project is mainly dedicated to the green and green efficiency and green something that's dedicated to the sustainable and renewable energies. Am I right?
That's correct. You can say it that way, that this is related to green building and energy efficiency, and it is a way to talk about it. However, these subjects, they are kind of part of our lives because we spend all this time in buildings, so it is very important for the building to be a good, healthy, comfortable, efficient building. So if you look from that perspective, then efficiency and renewable energy, it's not just a separate industry, it's just part of our life.
Okay, so you say that it's like an ecosystem we live in.
That is correct. That's a very good way to put that. It is an ecosystem, because that's how you make decisions, from how you eat, how you drive, how you live your life in the building, how you work in the building. So it may be your profession, it may be the work you do, but it becomes part of your life in many other things.
Timur, are you here as a legal entity or as an individual?
I came here as an individual, first to see what is going on here, what organizations work here, what just the kind of the whole landscape. However, before coming here, I did some preparation work. I met with organizations and companies in the United States and told them about my intentions. And when I came here, one of the first important things to do was to set up a non-profit organization called Uzbekistan Green Building Council of Uzbekistan, right? And the purpose of that organization is to educate, to increase awareness about the issues of energy efficiency, renewable energy, and sustainability. Because at the start, people need to be informed. They need to be aware. Once, whether it's a homeowner, a government official, or a business person, once they're aware, once they know about the standards and technologies, then they can make decisions, whether that's something suitable for them or not, whether it needs to be part of the government plan or not. So the first step is education and increasing awareness. That's why first of the projects were related to schools.
Now, would you please educate me first, okay, and increase my awareness about green building? What is it? So there are millions of definitions of green building, but in a sense, green building is almost like an organism. It's a structure that reacts to the environment, that is part of the environment, and then it also reacts and interacts with people inside the environment. It's a building that is healthy, with good air quality, good water quality. It's efficient, so it only uses energy when it's necessary, and doesn't waste energy. It doesn't waste water. It's comfortable. It should not be expensive if it's done right. Okay. Right? These are some of the concepts people have. And it's just a regular building, which, you know, at some point, hopefully we'll see here in Uzbekistan, when a regular person goes into a green building, they don't necessarily see greenness of the building. I see.
Because it becomes just a natural part of how you live and work in a building.
So they don't distinguish at all from other buildings?
There are some things you will know and you will see, but mostly it's in the walls, in the choice of material, in you know, roof, windows and stuff. So things that unless you're an expert, you will not know. And that's the whole actually purpose. You only react to some component of a building if there's something wrong. Okay. When you feel cold, you say, I feel cold. If you're comfortable, you don't pay attention to that. When everything works in the building, you don't pay attention to the building. You only pay attention to the building when things don't work. When you're cold, when you're hot, when humidity is not right, or air quality is not right, or lights are not working. That's when you know that you start paying attention. But if the building is comfortable, you don't. You don't pay attention to anything. It's just there.
Just a regular building.
Yeah, yeah. So that's when the green building becomes like a normal building, because you just feel comfortable there.
So you say that there's not much difference between the regular building and the greenhouse, not greenhouse, green building.
Green building.
Okay. So, but still, so they have their own peculiar ways to be erected, and they are undergone certain ways of certification and inspection. Am I right?
That is correct.
Would you please tell about that?
So there are some things that are visible, but to regular people, non-experts, right? But most of things are in the walls, in the floor, in the choice of material, and so on, just what we talked earlier. So how you as a non-expert can walk into the building and understand that this is a green building and not a regular building. For that, you have standards, right? You have green building standards. So one of the purposes for the Green Building Council of Uzbekistan is to bring some of these internationally recognized standards. For example, there's a World Green Building Council, so we're kind of partnering with them. They have a standard, and there's another organization called BRI Global. They have a standard. Those are internationally recognized green building standards. There are many other standards. So if you take a building and they go through the certification process, they go through every step, they document every step, the building is properly inspected, and at the end they receive this certificate, you as a non-expert can feel confident that this building is a green building. It's a healthy building, it's properly built building, because there is a certificate at the end. And because these are internationally recognized standards, wherever people come from the world, they know what it means, and they know that they have confidence in the quality of the construction. And that becomes important is for non-experts, which is like 90% of people, right, to feel confident that these buildings are good buildings.
Okay, so you mentioned about that people feel comfortable, but does it give any financial benefit to the government and individual, or any investment attractiveness?
Sure. So you mentioned there are several directions, and so let's just kind of take one step at a time here. So for a building owner, let's say a homeowner or a commercial building owner, for them the benefits are financial benefits. These buildings are usually more energy efficient, more resource efficient. They use less energy, they use less water. If it's built right, they usually use less material, right? So you have savings on the front end, and then you have savings long term.
Okay.
Every month when you spend energy, when you spend water, you have some savings. Those are savings that you can see right away. There are other savings, like, if the air quality is good and you feel healthy, you cannot put a dollar amount against it right away, but it's a long-term benefit. In an office building, if people are comfortable, then they work better. They don't get distracted for, making themselves comfortable stuff. So there are benefits there. If you look at them, investors who invest into building buildings, and let's say they just construct a building and then they want to sell the building, right? So because a green building is a better building, if you communicate all the benefits of it, then you could potentially sell it for more, or you can lease it for more. Some of the large international companies that we want to invite to Uzbekistan, they have their own standards. They have expectations. When they bring in their people, let's say to Uzbekistan, and they want a headquarters there, they want a healthy, comfortable, efficient building. It's part of their image. They will come in and they will require of the local investor build a building that is certified.
I see.
So it's almost a must, a need for a large investor who wants to build what they say called Class A office building, that it needs to be certified. Otherwise, it will be very hard to bring in large international corporations here. From the government perspective, obviously, there's a great benefit of having people healthy. So that's a big benefit for the government and for society overall. From the energy perspective, if the buildings are not using so much electricity, if the buildings are not using so much natural gas, those are export items for Uzbekistan.
Correct.
Uzbekistan exports natural gas, exports electricity. So there's a benefit right there. If we're not using it here, we can export it to neighboring countries and earn income. Water is probably the most precious resource.
Especially here in
Especially
this region.
here, and we know this for thousands of years. So we need to use it wisely, or rather we need to not waste it. So these green buildings are designed not to waste water. So if we do it right from the government perspective, from the whole country perspective, we can manage these limited water resource better.
Very good. You mentioned that you work on behavior-based strategy. So would you please tell us, what is it?
A very interesting thing that a lot of engineers and architects forget, that the buildings are for people, that they need to work for people, and we, the human beings, people, spend time in those buildings. So how we use buildings and how we manage buildings influence how much energy we use, right? So, for example, every family, they teach their kids to turn the lights off.
Yes, correct.
So that's a behavioral strategy. You tell your kid, turn the light off, and they don't. And then you go and do it for them, right? Same thing in the office building. administrator, a director tells the employees, go turn lights off, and people don't. They forget and whatnot, right? So you want to change that behavior so they do turn the lights off. Now that's a simple example. If you look at the large buildings, if you look at, for example, medical buildings or industrial buildings, you have large pieces of equipment that use a lot of energy. So if you don't turn it off at the right time, or you turn it on earlier, then they waste a lot of energy. So then it becomes actually a significant problem. So behavioral strategies look at how we, regular people, use buildings and therefore use energy, use water in the buildings, and then how engineers, architects, administrators manage the buildings. Some buildings, for example, they work 24 hours a day, but people are not in those buildings 24 hours a day. They come in the morning at 8 and they leave at 5, 6, correct. But the building works 24 hours. It doesn't have to work 24 hours. But that's not your decision. You just came in to work and left. It's an engineer that manages the building. It's administrator. They make the decision to keep it longer or not. So the behavioral strategies help optimize the performance of the building. They include you into the whole equation of the building. It's a little bit vague, it's a little bit complex set of concepts and theories. However, I think on the basic level, right, it's because the buildings need to work for us, for human beings, then we influence how the buildings manage. If we take care of the buildings, they last hundreds of years, as we've seen buildings here, we know buildings. If we don't take care of the buildings, then they fall apart. Yeah, right. That's why a lot depends on us human beings. That's why behavioral programs actually make sense. I had behavioral projects where we were able to cut the energy use by like 20% within 1 month, because, and it was medical office buildings, we did the competition between floors of the building, and the doctors participate in that competition, grown-ups, doctors, but they really enjoyed that competition, and the winning floor saved 20% of the energy. Very good. And that was behavior. We did not put new equipment, we didn't change the light bulbs, there was no major investment into equipment. We just measured how much energy they're using, and we ran a little competition, and that's behavioral. So there is tremendous potential in behavioral programs. This is a relatively new field. Not many people actively work in that. In the Western countries, there are projects like this for years. But I've been working in this field for 8 years. Maybe last 5 years, things were like really active. So bringing these strategies to Uzbekistan kind of puts us right there in the front of this whole development. So we're not catching up like with many things we have to do right now, but we start at the front. So I think from that perspective, it would be very exciting if we get to do some projects like that here.
But you don't educate, do you?
There is education, for sure. But it's a little bit different, because when you educate, but you also guide people towards certain action. So I don't just say, hey, Avaz, it's good to turn the lights off. I create activities so that you feel good about turning the lights off, and then you do it yourself.
Okay. Well, it's very brilliant that you enlighten us with this kind of information, which we didn't know before, but I hope that we can meet in the short-term future and discuss more about your school project and behavior-based strategy, and we hope to coordinate and work closely.
I hope so. This is very exciting development, so I hope we get to talk more and we share more with people about all these new developments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.